So we're unsurprisingly going to start with the ALDS and updates from there. And we're going to start with the Astros A's series. And here's the basics. Behind an offense that has kicked things into high gear, the Astros took the first two games of the ALDS against Oakland, and they led late in Game 3 before the A's rallied to keep their ALCS hopes alive. That's the simple explanation. Let's dive into it a little bit more. We talked about Game 1, which was on Monday. We talked about that on Tuesday's show. The Astros winning the series opener 10-5 behind two home runs from Carlos Correa. Jose Altuve's go-ahead two-run single following a Marcus Semien error, and George Springer's 4 hits in that game. Game 2 was Tuesday night, and Springer did it again. He hit 2 home runs, and Framber Valdez went 7 strong innings as the Astros topped the A's 5-2 in game number 2 of the series. Chris Davis and Chad Pinder each hit a solo homer for Oakland in the second and in the fourth innings. One of them in the second, one of them in the fourth. But that's all the A's could manage offensively against Valdez, who struck out 4 and walked 1 in the 7 innings in his first postseason start of his career, before 2 relievers for the Astros held the A's scoreless the rest of the way. George Springer put the Astros ahead to stay in this game with a 2-run home run in the top of the 3rd inning. Carlos Correa an RBI ground out in the 4th. And then catcher Martin Maldonado and then Springer went back-to-back with home runs in the 5th inning. And that was that. Sean Manaea for the A's struggled to 4 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. As for Springer, he just loves hitting in October. His first 2 games of the series, 6 hits, 2 home runs, 4 RBI. He's just been incredible this postseason. He moved into a tie for 7th all-time in MLB's home run list in the postseason with 17, tied with David Ortiz, Jim Thome, and Nelson Cruz. So George Springer, unsurprisingly I suppose given his track record, is finding great success in October. So that was Game 2. Springer's 2 home runs, great outing from Framber Valdez, and the Astros are up 2-0 in this series very quickly, of course. I mean, in 2 games. 2-0, obviously. And so then we head into Game 3. And the Astros, as I mentioned, and as it says here on the graphic, the Astros had the lead in this game, and the A's rallied back. The A's hitting 5 home runs and getting 3 shutout innings in relief from closer Liam Hendriks as they battled back for a 9-7 win yesterday. Zach Greinke was dealing with some soreness in his arm, so he did not draw that start. Instead, Jose Urquidy got the call for Houston in this game. And the Astros led 7-4 through the first 6 innings. It looked like we could very well be on our way to a series sweep by Houston, which would have been absolutely remarkable. And there were 6. It was the home run derby early. I alluded to this. It was like the home run derby early. We had 6 home runs hit between the 2 teams at that point through the first 6 innings. Tommy La Stella, Mark Canha, Matt Olson, and Marcus Semien for the A's, Jose Altuve, and Aledmys Diaz for the Astros. And then in the top of the 7th inning, A's third baseman Chad Pinder tied the score with a 3-run home run. Catcher Sean Murphy had a go-ahead sac fly in the 8th, and the A's were able to mount that comeback. With Pinder's home run, which of course that's what tied the score for the A's. With Pinder's home run, the entire Oakland starting infield had homered in the game, which is the first time that's ever happened in MLB postseason history, which is quite remarkable. And with Pinder's home run and Sean Murphy's go-ahead sac fly, the A's go on to win this one 9-7. They keep their postseason hopes, their ALCS hopes, their postseason run going. Both starting pitchers, Jesus Luzardo and Jose Urquidy, gave up 4 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. Houston's bullpen faltered in this game, giving up another 5 runs. Oakland closer Liam Hendriks As mentioned, he threw 3 scoreless innings to close out the game. He was not needed in games 1 or 2 because, of course, the A's lost those games. So he was fresh, and he was great with 3 great innings out of the bullpen to make sure that the A's comeback would be enough that it would not be faltered. And the A's go on to win Game 3 yesterday. So it's the Astros still holding a 2-1 series lead heading into today's matchup. A's are going to have to win another 2 in a row to advance. Astros obviously still with the upper hand here. A couple of takeaways for you from this series. First one, the Astros offense has come alive. We talked about this on Tuesday's show, but it was just based on a 1-game sample size. Sample size is a bit bigger now. Astros scoring 10 runs on Monday, 5 on Tuesday, and then 7 yesterday. George Springer is hitting. He's got 6 home hits in the series. Jose Altuve is 5 for 12 in the series. Carlos Correa is hitting. A lot of encouraging signs offensively for the Astros, and it looks like their bats have found it here in October at the perfect time, and that's certainly an encouraging sign for them, especially if they're able to win one of these next 2 games. They advance to the ALCS. There's no question they're going to need the bats to keep performing. We knew there was talent here. I mean, there was a lot of underperforming from Altuve, from Correa, from Bregman, from so many players on that team, and it looks like they found it at the right time. I mean, we knew it was there. So Astros offense has come alive. It's been fun to watch from that perspective, and we'll see how well it continues moving forward. Another observation, another takeaway for you from this matchup. The A's simply need more from their starting pitchers. They have a great bullpen, the A's do, one of the best in baseball. And it hasn't exactly been performing at an elite level here in the postseason. But regardless of that, I mean, they just need more from their starters, too, because Chris Bassett got the ball in Game 1, Sean Manaea in Game 2, Jesus Luzardo yesterday. None of them threw more than 4 1/3 innings. It was either 4 or 4 1/3 innings for each of them. And that's not horrible in a postseason start. We have to kind of change our metric for what's acceptable, for what's, ideal. But not great. And all of them gave up either 3 or 4 earned runs. So it was not great starts from any of them. I mean, they were all just not great starts, and they need somebody to step up. Frankie Montas is getting the ball in Game 4 today for the A's. Hopefully he can give them, from their perspective, hopefully he can give them a little bit more on the mound. Not super optimistic he'll be able to go deep into the game, but maybe if he can just limit it to 1 or 2 runs instead of 3 or 4, that could be key for the A's in Game 4 today. They just need a little bit more from their starting pitching. Hasn't been a disaster, hasn't been good enough either. They just haven't gotten that guy who goes out and throws 6 innings of 1-run ball. And, it's not really their style. I get it, but they kind of need that stopper here. And they're hoping Frankie Montas, even if he can't go deep, can provide a good outing for them today. The third takeaway here is a simple one. It's not over till it's over. And this series, of course, the Astros with a 2-1 series lead. 2 wins in a row for the A's, and they're advancing. Astros need to win just one of the next 2 games. But this is an A's team simply that's a fighting team. It's their style. I mean, this is a team that has a great record in extra innings this year, that fought back last night. I mean, this is their mentality. This is a scrappy club that's not going to give up. It's not going to roll over. So if you're the Astros, I mean, it would have been certainly nice from that perspective to get the win last night. You got to move on, though, and you got to take these A's really seriously. I mean, you can't fall into any sort of like, oh, well, we have the series lead, or, oh, well, if we don't win today, we can win tomorrow. Because if you get too lackadaisical, I suppose, about it, this is an A's team that could fight back. It's their style. I mean, it's simply their style. So the Astros can't afford to let their foot off the gas at all in the rest of this series. And that's your ALDS update from the A's Astros series. A's able to fight back, get that Game 3 win, keep their hopes alive. The Astros with a 2-1 lead in the series going into today's game. We'll talk about today's game coming up here at the end of today's show. The other series in the American League side is Rays Yankees, and this is a series that the outlook for it has changed significantly in the last couple of days since we last talked. On Tuesday, we were talking about the Yankees' Game 1 victory when their offense just kept rolling. Garrett Cole grinded out a pretty strong start, and the Yankees won Game 1 9-3. That's what we were talking about on Tuesday's show. And now here's your sort of overall update on where things stand now. Giancarlo Stanton is doing incredible things. He made history with his 6th home run in 5 postseason games last night. But the Yankees pitching has fallen flat over the last couple of days, and Randy Arozarena, the outfielder for the Rays, and his teammates, they took advantage, scoring 15 total runs in Games 2 and 3 to take Games 2 and 3 of the ALDS. They now have the upper hand. They're up 2-1 and just 1 victory away from their first ALCS appearance in 12 years. So things have changed. The advantage in that series has changed greatly over the last couple of days. So let's talk a little bit about Games 2 and Games 3 of this series. In Game 2 on Tuesday evening, the Rays struck out 18 Yankees batters, a postseason record for a 9-inning game. And the Rays hit 4 home runs, which tied a postseason franchise record. And they won 7-5 on Tuesday night over the Yankees, evening the series at 1. Those 4 home runs from Randy Arozarena, catcher Mike Zunino, outfielder Manuel Margot, and outfielder Austin Meadows provided enough pop to overcome a 2-homer game from Giancarlo Stanton, whose second home run was a 3-run homer in the 4th. It traveled 458 feet. It was an absolute blast off the bat of Stanton. But the Rays able to get enough offense of their own with those 4 homers to get the 7-4 victory in Game 2. Tyler Glasnow on the mound for the Rays. He gave up both of those Stanton home runs, totaling 4 earned runs, and his were credited to him. But those were the only real blemishes on Glasnow's line, as he also struck out 10 Yankees, which is a Rays postseason record. So a lot of records in this game. Diego Castillo came on for the Rays with a clean inning and 2 strikeouts. Nick Anderson, who is potentially, I think he's up there, if not the best reliever in baseball right now. He struck out 4 batters in 2 scoreless innings, and then Peter Fairbanks finished things off, allowing a DJ LeMahieu RBI single, but he struck out 2, and the Rays were able to escape, or not even escape, they were able to notch that Game 2 victory. The Yankees' pitching strategy in this game is worth discussing because they kind of tried to out-raise the Rays, if you will, with a creative strategy. They sent Delvi Garcia to the mound, who became the youngest pitcher in Yankees history to make a postseason start. He's just 21. But he gave up a run and then in an inning, and then they pulled him. It turned out he was really just functioning as an opener for J.A. Happ, the veteran, who didn't seem to, based on his performance and his post-game comments, he didn't seem to enjoy that role of coming in, this is a veteran starter, of coming into a game in the 2nd inning. And Happ struggled, surrendering 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. It wasn't pretty at all. And that was that. So, one of the things that people have been talking about with this game, the Yankees just, they overcomplicated things with their pitching strategy, it seems like. They tried to do too much, and it backfired. J.A. Happ struggled, and the Rays, despite Giancarlo Stanton's home runs, they erupted, I would say, offensively to a large degree to get that Game 2 win. And that tied the series up at 1, heading into yesterday's game. And in yesterday's game, the postseason legend of Arozarena, Randy Arozarena, we talked about him on Tuesday, it continued to grow as he homered for the third straight game last night. Two other Rays went deep, and Tampa Bay got an 8-4 win last night against the Yankees in Game 3. As mentioned, Stanton homered again. This was a two-run shot in the 8th inning off of rookie Shane McCallahan. Stanton becoming the first player with a home run in each of his team's first 5 games of a single postseason ever. He's also the first Yankee to homer in 5 consecutive playoff games. And he's completely locked in at the plate right now. He's just on an incredible run. There's not much else to say other than this is Giancarlo Stanton at his best, healthy and locked in at the plate. We've seen him do these kind of things before, so it's not as if he's showing us something. It's not as if like, wow, we didn't know he could do that. But he's just firing on all cylinders right now. But it wasn't enough. He did not get enough offensive help from his teammates, and the Yankees pitching again faltered. Aaron Judge had a sac fly in the 3rd, Aaron Hicks an RBI double in the 4th, but just those 4 runs then for the Yankees, that wouldn't prove to be enough, because the Rays got to Masahiro Tanaka, making what very well could be his final start with the Yankees. Tanaka gave up 5 earned runs in 4 innings, and then the Rays tacked on 3 more runs off of 2 Yankees relievers. For the Rays, the offense came from an RBI single from their catcher, Michael Perez, Kevin Kiermaier, the outfielder, with a 3-run homer in the 4th, then Arozarena with a solo shot in the 5th, and then Perez homered, and then Ji-Man Choi had an RBI double in the top of the 6th, and the Rays offense just kept chugging along, adding more runs, and pulled out the 8-4 win. Veteran starter Charlie Morton was good for the Rays. He showed some incredible velocity for him. In the beginning of this start, he gave up 2 runs, just one of them earned in 5 innings with 6 strikeouts. So a good outing for the veteran Charlie Morton. And the Rays, just like that, the bats are going. They're hitting home runs left and right the last couple of games. The Yankees pitching has faltered. And while they've gotten some offense, it hasn't been enough. And here we are. Now the Rays, with the upper hand in this series, they lead the series 2-1 heading into Game 4 today. A couple of takeaways for you from this series so far. The first one is we got to just highlight Randy Arozarena a little bit more. He can't be stopped. We talked about him on Tuesday. I talked about him here a minute ago plenty, but we got to just highlight a few of the things that he's doing. He just keeps producing at the plate. I mean, it's sort of, some of his teammates have said things along the lines recently of there's nobody better. He's the best player on the planet right now. And I mean, right now, he looks like the best player on the planet. He's not, nobody's going to consider him one of the best players in baseball right now. I mean, he's breaking out, but, we got to keep it all in perspective. But what he's doing right now, he looks so locked in. There's just no stopping him right now. Following a 3-hit game last night, which included that home run we talked about, Arozarena is now 12 for 20 in 5 postseason games. He's got 3 home runs. He's got 6 extra base hits. It's not even just homers and singles. He's doubling too. He's got 12 hits through his first 5 playoff games, are the most in Rays franchise history. He's also the first Tampa Bay Ray to have multiple hits in 4 consecutive postseason games. There's not a lot else to say about it other than that we may be witnessing a major breakout. Obviously we're witnessing an incredible performance, but this may be the start of Randy Arozarena turning into a real star. I don't know. I don't have deep analysis here, but there's nobody more locked in this postseason than Arozarena, with the possible exception of Giancarlo Stanton. Both those guys in that series. Second takeaway for you here is also one we've kind of talked about, and it's the Yankees pitching falling flat. We talked about in Game 1 how Garrett Cole was good. He wasn't great, but he was good. And then the bullpen held Tampa Bay scoreless the rest of the way. And then Game 2, their pitching strategy didn't work out. Game 3, Tanaka, who's been a very good postseason pitcher in his career, just couldn't get it done. And this is actually the first time, these last 2 games, the first time in Yankees history that they've allowed 7+ runs and 3+ homers in back-to-back postseason games. So that's sort of just that stat on its own. First time ever with back-to-back playoff games allowing 7+ runs and 3+ homers. That kind of shows you, that sums up the Yankees pitching struggles, which I guess you could turn on. I mean, you can also flip it around and say it sums up the Rays' offensive success of the last few days. But I think unquestionably, I mean, it's obviously a little bit of both. It's not one way or the other. But for the Yankees, their pitching has struggled. You know, there were questions, and we talked about this. There were questions about their pitching behind Garrett Cole heading into this postseason and into this series. The bullpen is strong, but not as strong as it's been in prior years. You know, and when you're having to lean on guys like J.A. Happ and a 21-year-old rookie in Game 3, that's problematic. And, you know, I don't know what you can say about Masahiro Tanaka. It just didn't work out. But, you know, the Yankees, this was a vulnerability for them, and it's coming back to hurt them right here. Tampa Bay manager Kevin Cash actually said last night that he's not fully convinced that Garrett Cole won't come back to pitch in Game 4. Now, I think that's highly doubtful considering he pitched in Game 1, of course, and there's no off days, so that's just 2 days rest. Yes, 2 days rest. I mean, that's highly doubtful, but I mean, the Yankees are on the verge of elimination right now. Garrett Cole likely to go on short rest in Game 5 tomorrow if they get there. But if they don't get there, I mean, you might, I don't know. I doubt it's going to happen, but the Yankees are all of a sudden in a spot where they may not get to even have the opportunity for Garrett Cole to go Game 5 because they may be out today. One other observation for you here, the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen has been largely very good this postseason, and that's not really a surprise. If you take away one bad outing, which is John Curtis giving up 5 earned runs in Game 1 of this series, it was just an outing. He was struggling, and they just couldn't pull him because at that point the game was over. If you take out that one outing, Tampa Bay relievers have posted a 1.59 ERA in this series, so that's really promising. That's really good. I mean, we know the Rays pitching has been their strength. It hasn't, you know, dominated the Yankees because, I mean, that's an incredible offense, but generally speaking, some good outings. Charlie Morton, a good outing, as we talked about, and the bullpen, generally speaking, has come through for the Rays. So obviously that's going to be, you know, key to their success moving forward. That's pretty obvious, of course. It's their MO. And so here we are. The Yankees 1 loss away from elimination. The Rays 1 win away from advancing to the ALCS for the first time in quite a while. The first time in 12 years.